Amigos de iRock, estamos aquí para conversar con una banda de éxito mundial, de riffs filosos, gancheros, que han marcado a miles de fanáticos. Estamos hablando de Volbeat, quienes se aprestan a lanzar un nuevo disco este 6 de junio, God of Angels Trust. Y estamos junto a Jon Larsen, baterista de esta banda danesa. So, how are you, Jon? Nice to meet you and talk to you.
Nice to meet you too, and I'm doing very good, thank you. And I hope you do the same.
Yeah, thank you. Well, where are you now? What are you doing these days as a band?
Well, right now we are rehearsing for the tour, which will start next week. I think was it next Friday? I think we're going to start the first show in Vancouver, in Canada. So we've
Right.
been for the last couple of months. We've actually been rehearsing, trying to figure out a set list, what to play and what not to play. So I think we had our last rehearsal today, actually, and then we're gonna leave next week for Canada.
Great. And how do you feel about God of Angels Trust, the new release that is about to see the light?
Yeah, how do I feel about it? I feel proud. I think we've done a really, really good album. We set the goals that we set out to do with this album. We actually did that. So we're all very excited about it. We are also very excited to see how people will react to it. I mean, so far, from what we can gather, people who have heard it seems to be really into it. So that's great. The songs that has been released so far, people seem to be really into it. And yeah, so and of course we're excited to go back out on the road and not only play the usual standards that we do, but also play the new songs to see how they work live.
Yeah, of course. And about that, you said some about the expectation of how the people will receive the music. Haven't you made some kind of pre-listening with fans or something like that?
It's only through what we read on Facebook. Actually,
Oh,
there are certain there's some Volbeat forums out there, on Facebook and all that, and those are the comments that we basically read. I do believe that a few what you can kind of see who's in the inner circle of the band, who's also fans, has listened to it, and they seem to be really happy about it as well. So fingers crossed.
yeah. Well, I listened to the record. I think it's great. I think the fans will enjoy so much these songs. It's so full of kicking ass riffs. Is
Hmm.
there a song in particular that you can't wait for the people to hear it?
uh, hmm. Oh, excuse me.
No, 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 great.
um I guess right now it's probably By a Monster's Hand, because that's already out. It's out as a single in the US. So I guess probably that one, because I know that a lot of people already know it. So it's going to be interesting how they react when we actually play it live. But
Yeah,
again, I guess in total, actually all 10 songs.
yeah, great. Well, and how do you think this new record fits in the Volbeat discography?
I think it fits very well. I think it's kind of like, a progression, natural progression from the last album, Servant of the Mind. This is I wouldn't call it a part two, of course, but it's more in had Servant of the Mind has some of the things that this album has as well, because again with Servant of the Mind we kind of recorded it as a three piece, because back then Rob was stuck in America due to the pandemic, and we recorded it during the COVID thing, so he couldn't be there. So Seven has some of the same thing as God of Angels Trust has, because again for this one it was the three of us who recorded it, like we actually did back in the days, where if you go back to the first, at least the first, I would probably say three albums, it was the three of us. Me and Michael would do all the rhythm stuff. He would do all the guitars, he would do harmonies and stuff, and Anas would come in and do his bass later on, and when Thomas was in the band, he would come in later, yeah, and do his thing. So this one, like Servant of the Mind, was kind of a throwback thing to how we used to do it back in the days.
Oh, great. Yeah, I was about to ask you something about that because you know the new songs are really powerful, have these catchy grooves, melodies. So, how do you choose the parts for each songs? Do you try a lot of different parts, a lot of different feels, or just flows all the time when you
It's
are making these songs?
it's usually more of a flow type of thing. It's usually what actually pops into one's head. I mean, Michael, of course, when he brings in the song, he usually has some idea on how, why, and how to make it sound, you know. But you know, once he comes in with a riff on our idea, a lot of the times he doesn't really have, like, you know, oh, play like this on the drum. Sometimes he would say, oh, just do this and that, but then I would add whatever comes into my head, and if it works, we'll keep it, and if it doesn't work, you know, he definitely tells me. It's like, yeah, that doesn't work, you got to do something else, you know. But sometimes, you know, he would have a basic idea, and then I would do something different than what he thought of, and you know, if it works, then he'll say, oh yeah, I didn't think of that, that's kind of great, you know. But we always played by feel. That's one of the big parts, for me, definitely, is playing by feel, not so much on think about, you know, what to do, and you got to do this piece or whatever. It's more like a feel thing, and then, you know, we can go back and forth and say, yeah, that part wasn't really perhaps what we were looking for, maybe try this part instead, you know. And sometimes, you know, there will be things that doesn't really work. One of the songs on this album, the original version was actually slightly different, but we couldn't really get it to work, and we were very unsure right about a month before we entered the studio if we should actually do that song at all, because there was something about it that didn't really work, and we couldn't figure out why. And then we just found out actually that the only part of it that actually works was, I think it was the chorus. It was kind of like, yeah, the chorus kind of works, but the rest of the song doesn't really work. It seemed forced in a way. It didn't feel natural. So what he did, he said, okay, you know, I'm going to keep the chorus, and then I'll see you in 2 days, and then I probably have a new idea, or we can jam something, and maybe we'll come up. And then he came in, you know, 2 days later with a new basic riff and a new verse, and it was like, yeah, that works.
Great, thanks for your answer. And well, have you changed or added new stuff to your drum kit lately?
How do I what now?
Some new stuff to your drum kit?
You mean more drums, or
Yeah, 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 yeah. Or other artifacts, or you are maintaining the essential kit you always
oh,
have.
the drum stays the same. You know, I haven't really changed that much. You know, what we do change every once in a while is the cymbal configuration. Uh,
Okay,
that's basically it. For the first part of the tour, we're not really going to change anything at all. When we go to Europe in the fall, we're going to change some of the cymbals to different cymbals. But you know, every once in a while, I try out different stuff with my drum tech Pete. If I have an idea, you know, maybe for changing heads, or you know, adding something, I talk to Pete about it, and sometimes he would say, "You're a complete idiot. We're not going to change that." All right, you know, let's keep it as it is, you know. But sometimes we'll look maybe at different snare drums to see if there's a different snare drum that might fit instead of the one that we're using now. But so far we're going to keep it as it is. The only thing that we've added to the drum kit as such is what you call a gong drum, which we added for Servant of the Mind, which is more like an effect thing. You know, you hit it maybe once or twice, and that's basically it. But it looks kind of cool, and it gave him more gray hairs to set it right.
great. Well, although Volbeat has a very characteristic sound and style,
Mm.
what do you feel when some people say that you sound like Metallica or other band?
You know what? That's fine. You know, it doesn't bother me at all. I mean, we have never not acknowledged whom we are inspired by, and that's, you know, everybody from Elvis to Cash to Metallica. I mean, how can you not end up having stuff that sounds like Metallica? I mean, that's almost impossible in these day and age. So, but you know what? That's fine. If people there were some in the beginning who said, "Oh yeah, you guys sound like a harder version of the Load era of Metallica." And we were like, "Yeah, okay, fine. If you think that, that's great." So for us, that doesn't really matter. If people think that we sound like this and that, that's fine.
Okay. And any plans about coming to Chile again?
Hope so. That's all I can say right now. I hope so.
Yeah.
We know what we are doing for the rest of this year.
Yeah.
So far, I'm not sure what we're going to do next year. I'm pretty sure there's going to be more touring, obviously, but where and when, I have no idea. But we would definitely love to come back. It's been a while.
Yeah, and I would like to ask you about some sad passing of drummers in the last few years. We
Mm,
have now Charlie Watts, Alan White, and I would like to take a time for Neil Peart, which is my
mm,
favorite musician of all
yes,
time. You
yes.
wrote some very, very deep words about him, and I would like you to tell me how did it touch and influence you with all his sides?
Well, Neil as a drummer, I mean, for me, he was the best drummer in the world. I mean, he was definitely one of a kind. But he wasn't really that much. I wasn't say I was inspired by Neil as such. I mean, I enjoyed his drumming tremendously. I thought he was a very musical drummer. He was not just a guy who would fly around the kit and do all these fancy stuff, which he also could do. But I always felt that Neil played along to the music. He wouldn't do anything that wouldn't fit the music. Never mind his technical brilliance. But for me, he was a guy who played to the music and with the music, and then he could add all the amazing things that he did. And he usually, I would say, drum solos are boring as fuck, to say the least. I mean, it's boring. Guitar solos are boring. Bass solos are boring. Drum solos. But I have to admit, once I got into Rush, and I heard him play, and I saw some videos, and then I saw one of his drum solos, and I was like, holy cow. Again, it was very musical. It was just not, him flying around the kit and being all technical. There was a whole story to what he did in his solos. And I thought, oh my God, that is so brilliant. But he was definitely one of a kind. But now
Yeah.
that you mentioned Charlie Watts, I mean, Charlie was when I grew up. Charlie was one of the main inspirations for me to pick up the drums. And Charlie had a very very special way of playing, but you could always hear when it was Charlie playing, and he was such a major part in the overall sound of the Rolling Stones that he can never be replaced. I mean, the guy who's playing with the Stones now, Steve Jordan, was actually recommended by Charlie. Charlie said, if I can do it, you should get this guy. And he is doing, a great job, but Charlie just had his own way of playing, his own style, that cannot be copied by anybody. And that is actually for me what characterized as a really great drummer. If you can hear, if you listen to something, you go, oh my God, that's Charlie Watts playing, or that's Ringo playing, or yeah, Neil Peart playing, or Peter Criss, or whatever. That to me is a great drummer.
Thank you so much. It's been really a pleasure. Have a nice day.
You too. Thank you.